Today's episode of Chat and Chew is sponsored by Be Positive Productions and Multimedia Studios, LLC. I like to think of imagination as something akin to a superpower. Used in the right context for good, it can help bolster our aspirations and propel us closer to our goals. We visualize the outcome of our accomplishments and work toward attaining said thing. However, when used to propagate untruths, reality can become distorted. We no longer know what's real and what's not. The more often we repeat something to ourselves, the more likely it is to become our truth, and the lines between perception and reality begin to blur. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap.
Greetings once again to our weekly Chat and Chew broadcast. Welcome. Today we're going to continue our conversation on fatherhood, and I want to start out with this quote, and we're going to talk about it even more in our broadcast. The quote is, "Heaven can be like a father taking care of the well-being of his kids." I'll say it one more time. Our quote is, "Heaven can be like a father taking care of the well-being of his kids." So we're going to have this discussion. I know some of you are on your lunch break, so let's chat and chew while you do.
Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course, hit the bell to activate notifications that will remind you when we're on. Please be sure to leave us a comment to let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you.
Hello everyone, this is Glenn Warren, founder and executive director of Fathers Forever. I want to share an alarming reality with you. 627,000 fathers are incarcerated that have kids under 18. Now, there are 56,000 moms incarcerated who have kids under 18. The reality is there are so many more fathers incarcerated than moms. This is why I Am a Father Forever book exists. Now, I need your help. I am inviting you to help us get this book into as many fathers incarcerated as possible. Here's how it works. For your donation of $22, we will provide a book to an incarcerated father. Thank you in advance for helping Fathers Forever heal fathers and save families. James and Tammy, this is a closeout session of Father's Day. We've been honoring Father's Day the whole month of June, and this is our last time we will be doing this. And like we did the mothers on Mother's Day, we're going to end with the fathers on Father's Day, talking about our fathers and what they meant to us. And also we're going to talk about the TV dads. As I did in the intro a few minutes ago, I want to say a quote, and then when I finish this quote, I want James and then Tammy give me what is your interpretation of this quote. This quote is, "Heaven could be like a father taking care of the well-being of his children." What does that quote mean to you? James first. Well, I'll say it again. Heaven can be like a father caring for the well-being of his children.
So God gave us an example of how that hierarchy works.
Mm-hmm.
And fathers pretty much are patterned after God was.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I'm looking at the father as the leader, but the mother is there not to be have less importance as a person,
Mm-hmm.
but she is what the Bible says, that's my helpmeet.
Right.
So she shares in some of this responsibility, but it doesn't all fall on her shoulders.
Right.
And then the children make up the rest of the family, where they take leadership also from mom and dad, but
Mm-hmm.
dad should be the priest of the home. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we like to give certain tasks to the mom
Mm-hmm.
because we think that she's more suited. We're wrong as men.
Right.
We should be leading out in those aspects
Right. Right.
of a family.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Tammy, you're up.
I would I would agree with James and much of what he said, but also when you made mention of heaven, just in general, I'm thinking providence, and heaven being a specific place.
Mm-hmm.
I would think of God being our heavenly Father, setting these parameters so that we are, as long as we're like within the boundaries of His embrace, we're okay.
Mhm.
Much like our earthly fathers.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we stay within the confines of the rules that they set for us, we're okay. But anytime we deviate from that, they don't stop loving us, but we have to endure the consequences. So,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
there are consequences.
Yes. Yeah. So when we put that quote together, we don't know exactly what heaven is like. We have pictures, we have ideals. The Bible has painted some pictures. That's why I said heaven could be like a father caring for the well-being of his children.
Mhm.
God cares for all of us, from the least to the greatest. And in my opinion, a father's responsibility is like that, to take care of all of his kids,
Right.
those you live with and those you don't live with. If you're a father of your child, your responsibility as a father is to take care of your kids. And like God's responsibility is to take care of us, and He does. As a father, our responsibility is to make sure that we're taking care of all of our kids, being there for them at every step of the way, and making sure they're getting their needs met. Now, James, you said something very interesting. We say all the time, man is the head, and I believe that's
Mhm.
biblical. But at the same time, we are the foundation. I mean, we are the top, but we also on the bottom. We are the foundation. Lots of the time, when you look at a building, you don't see the foundation.
Right.
You see the glamour of the building, but the foundation you don't see, which is you don't supposed to see the foundation because everything is uphold on this foundation. So though we are the head, we also at the bottom. Everything starts with us,
Yeah.
and that part is don't always get the glory. We have to make sure our kids are taken care of, our wives are taken care of, our homes are taken care of. That is the foundation in which everything is built on. If you have a building and it's got holes in the walls, it needs a paint job, those things are cosmetics. You can fix that. But if the foundation is broke, you got to condemn the building because the building could collapse. We have a lot of foundations in our society, a lot of broken men, and our foundation is getting cracked. And we have to find out a way to repair that foundation. If we don't, the building is going to collapse, and our family members is going to one that's going to be getting hurt. So as fathers, as father figures, we have to make sure that yes, we are the head, but yet we are at the bottom too. We are the foundation of everything starts on us, and we have to make sure that our kids are taken care of.
Absolutely.
So that's when I came up with that, and actually that was the last chapter of the book. I am a father forever, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and that quote just kind of popped in my head that heaven can be like a father taking care of the well-being of his children.
Well, something else though, our homes should be like heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Safe place,
Mm-hmm.
comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
protected place,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. I mean, those are some of the things that we could incorporate in our homes.
Exactly.
And sometimes we do, but then there's sometimes that we don't.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
And safety, your home should be, when you look at domestic violence, this whole thing where the house is supposed to be, if the safe place you could be at. I mean,
yeah.
violence can happen anywhere outside outside the house, but it should never happen inside your house. That's the place that you should have peace and rest and refuge and get strength and help, not to go in and have to fight for the very person that loves you now is the one that's abusing you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to make sure, like you said, our home should be an example of what heaven is. We should have that safety, that provision, that caring for, that pointing toward destiny and purpose. All those things should be incorporated in our house. And as the father, again, I keep repeating myself, we are the head, but we also on the bottom.
Chapter 12.
Chapter 12. We are chapter 12. Yeah. We are the foundation which everything starts. And so, I often say, if we got problems in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our cities, in our states, we have to go back to where everything started at. Because it started from the foundation.
Right.
And so we have to get that straight. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of lead off with that as we end up this session of. So James, actually, Tammy, I want to start with you. Tell me something that was very, very memorable about your father, remarkable, if you will. What are some of the things that he left you that's keeping you going, keeping you motivated? Tell us a little bit about your dad.
There are a lot of things I could say about my father, but among other things, he's probably like one of the biggest advocates for his kids. Anything that I've ever come to him for and about. Now, I say that, but growing up, he didn't praise us like if I made, because we made good grades in school, but my dad would always come back to me with if I made an A, that's great, but what was the grade point average? And I'm like, well, it was a 95. And then he would always follow that up with, well, then I guess you have 5 more points that you could get.
Right.
If 100 is the highest, you got 5 more points you could get. And I didn't understand that when I was growing up. I mean, it was kind of frustrating because I'm like, well, Daddy, I'm making straight A's, and shouldn't that be enough? But as I've gotten older, I saw the value in that. He was basically expressing to us not to don't become complacent, and where you can, if there's an opportunity for you to study harder and to work at your full potential, that's where he saw us, and that's where he wanted us to see ourselves. So, I mean, he's the pillar of strength for me. I used to think my daddy was the strongest man in the world.
Yeah.
And then he just set a really good example of what a man should be, And for that reason, I thank him. But I think it also makes it very difficult for me whenever I am entertaining the idea of dating someone, because he set that bar really, really high.
Right.
I don't see myself settling, because I know that there are men who will take care of their families, show you some, security, make you feel secure, and not put up with foolishness.
Right.
He's very much an authoritarian, but very loving.
Yes.
And has the greatest sense of humor. So if anything, I'd like to think that we all got a taste of that. So he's very funny.
So it's like your father always pushed you to do better. And even though you're doing
Always.
good, there's always room for improvement.
Always room for improvement. Never, ever rest on your laurels. When you think that you've done your best, there's probably a little bit more you can do.
Right.
Even up to my conversation with him on my way home from work today.
All right, James, your turn.
So my dad, when I remember life, was a preacher.
Okay.
He went to Seventh-day Adventist College called Oakwood. Now it's called Oakwood University. And he graduated there. And
I never knew that.
Yeah, so he went from being a graduate to being a part of a conference of ministers. So he decided, because it was such a poor area, such a poor time for Black people in the Deep South. Um, and I don't know. I think he may have wanted to remain as a full-time preacher, but he didn't. My family migrated. My parents and my oldest brother migrated to Washington, D.C. area, and that's where I was raised. But what I like about my dad, he never stopped preaching. He was a lay pastor at some point. I know he's pastored in Fredericksburg, Virginia before, started a church there, had one of the ones that's still around in Bladensburg, Maryland now. But we started that together, or our family and people like that. So he gave us a very spiritual side of what his life was like, and he shared it, and it carried over to all of us. And I used to say he is so strict, he is so mean, and then you get that label, oh, you're a preacher's kid when you talk to some people, and so we couldn't cut up. We did, but
not much.
Not much, So from a spiritual perspective, he taught us how to incorporate God in our everyday life.
Right.
Now, there were some other things that he did for us, and I'm saying us, but especially my oldest brother and myself. He taught us the value of working early in life. So by the way, before he eventually matriculated over to the educational system.
Okay.
So he was a lifetime teacher and things of that nature. But when he taught us how to work, he had gotten a part-time job just so that we could work. And we had to clean up a school every day. And I knew what floor I had, knew what floor he had, and knew what floor my brother had.
Wow.
And that was our thing for the longest. And we probably was maybe about, my brother might have been 11 and I might have been 8 or 10, somewhere 9 rather. So he taught us how to work, how to get paid. I mean, he did pay us once a month, and I was like, wow, that was a lot of money for me, $15.
Right.
But anyway, so that happened. We got an understanding of what working was. And I think a lot of car guys grew up holding that flashlight while dad is under the hood.
Car. Oh God, I have my days of that.
Yeah. And it was so cold some nights because, our cars weren't fuel injected like they are now. They had carburetors on them. And he's out there tinkering. You're not holding the light right. You're not, I just remember the cold. But I became a car guy from a very young age because I used to build model cars and all the way up to being an adult, still involved with automobiles some sort of way. Haven't been as much lately, but so we did those things too. Education was important, although everybody in my family has graduated. I didn't graduate. I dropped out of college because I wanted to do something different. He didn't bother me. My mom did though.
Right.
And I'm gonna just throw her in here. And he was like, leave the boy alone. He know what he want to do. No, I don't. I mean, so I'm pretty sure he was like, that's one less I got to pay tuition for, things like that. But my dad's 90 years old today.
Wow.
Well, he turned 90 on June 5th this year. So he's got a slight case of dementia now, and he's being cared for in Maryland. But, he wasn't, I think you and I had similar experiences. He wasn't that lovey-dovey kind of guy.
Right.
He's not going to come and squeeze you. I mean, give you that bear hug and things like that.
Right.
I experienced that later in life. The older I got, then it was like, I'm going to hug you whether you want it or not.
Right.
That's what we did. And but he was a good provider. I never knew I, you didn't get a lot of no's in our family because he did whatever he could to make sure we had what we needed.
Right.
And, so I have good memories of my dad,
Right.
and I know when we messed up, I remember those spankings.
Yeah,
well, you used to call them, I'm saying spankings, but that's being politically correct.
Right.
We got them whoopings by him, so.
Them beat downs.
Yeah. So you didn't want too many of those.
No, we didn't get too many of those. So your dad is still living, and Tammy, your dad is still living, right? Well, yeah.
That's correct.
How old is your father, Tammy?
He just celebrated his 82nd birthday on the 27th. So
happy birthday.
Happy belated birthday, Daddy.
Yeah. Well, my father deceased. He was 81 actually when he died. About I think it was 2004. Then.
Yeah, we did the calculation not too long ago.
A number of years ago. Yeah. He was 81 when he passed away. My mom and him had been married about 61 years. And we did a podcast last week on my siblings, and we talked about our dad, and we all kind of took turns and talked about the strength thing that he brought to the table. And my dad was kind of a no-nonsense man, but at the same time, he had a lot of little mischievous things about him that I kind of picked up. He was education-wise, he only had maybe a 6th grade education, if it was that much. But he was big on all of his kids going to college and getting a degree. And I think 5 of us out of 7 got a 4-year degree. My other 2, my brother, he had got a certificate from a technical, and my older sister was really high up in IBM when she ended up retiring, had a good job. And so they kind of trained her on the job. But one time he had 3 siblings in college at the same time. Wow. Me, Tommy, and Basila, all was at St. Augustine's College, all at the same time.
Okay.
And he worked tirelessly, often 16 hours a day, 2 full-time jobs to make sure that my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and make sure that we came home to a full cooked meal, and we had food on the table and clothes on our backs, and my mom ran the house, but my daddy was provided by and there was no question about it that he was the head of the house, but it also was a question that he was that foundation. Again, we glory on the head, but it's the foundation we have to accept. That's our responsibility just as much, if not more. And he was that foundation. And like you say, I bring my mom in it as well. My mom would bend, but she didn't break. If my dad wanted to do something and my mom was against it, she wouldn't give in. And she would eventually show him this is the right way to do it. And she saved my house so many times. Yeah, because he would have lit into me, because I was kind of not a mischievous person, but I kind of wore my feelings on my sleeve. If I didn't like something, I wouldn't say nothing, but it would be on my face, and you could see that I wasn't happy. And that to my dad was not a good thing. You did not. That was a sign of rebellion, and he didn't like that a lot. And my mom would probably spur me from getting the crap smacked out of me a few times. And so we all have stories about our father and what he meant to us. And so at this point, we're going to shift a little bit. And we all have grown up in different eras. And we talked about this at Mother's Day. We talked about the TV moms. But now we want to talk about the TV dads. And let's have some fun. And let's talk about what are some of the TV dads that shaped your life about fatherhood growing up. Tammy, I think I'm going to start with you again. Then we're going to just kind of take turns and talk about some of the TV dads that really, really stood out growing up.
For me, I'll have to defer back to the Cosby Show, because that was one of the most popular shows that was on, like, as I was growing up. And for some reason, when I saw Bill Cosby, I think between Bill Cosby and Fred Sanford, if you could take those two men's personalities and mash them together, I think you would have my daddy. I think you would have my dad. And the reason I say that is my daddy can use some, he was career military and very no nonsense. When it was time to work, it was time to work. But when it was time to laugh and play or whatever, he would do that as well. But I say that he was like Fred Sanford in that Fred Sanford had a very wry sense of humor and chose to use some very colorful words at times. My dad is very fluent in French. And then, but then the Bill Cosby side of things, because Bill Cosby was such a wonderful storyteller. And my dad, even now, he tells you these stories, and I don't even know I don't know if he heard them somewhere or if he's just, that quick witted that he just comes up with things and he says things that are, that pop into his mind, but he keeps you captivated in what he says. And I'd like to think that that's part of why, between he and, my mom, cultivating the love of reading and writing and so forth. And I like to tell stories. So I think maybe that's where I get it from. But yeah, so Bill Cosby was definitely one of those TV dads that was very influential in my life. Fred Sanford, of course, George Jefferson. I just thought he was hilarious. But yeah, I think those are probably the three strongest ones as far as what I used to watch when I was growing up.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So I've got some funny guys. So I'm probably just gonna do two.
Okay.
I used to be addicted, I think, at some point to Seinfeld, and
okay.
and George's father, which is his name was Frank Costanza from Seinfeld. He came up with he wanted his own Christmas holiday.
Right.
So he called it Festivus.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Right. So, I mean, I thought that was hilarious. And people still refer to that today. It's Festivus, not Christmas. It's Festivus. So that was one of my favorites. And it was, my other one of my favorites, I always felt so bad for this guy. It was Al Bundy. He just hated his life, but at the same time, he was home every day and he just tried to make the best of whatever he could of his family life, his wife. Now this isn't, neither one of these characters were my dad. Now, my dad probably wouldn't even know who they were.
Right.
But I thought that they were funny in terms of their relationship, in terms of the characters they played.
Right. Okay. Mine was, I have a couple of them, but I got a lot of them. We talk about the Prince of Bel-Air, Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
And the way he kind of took Will in and treated him as his son. There was an episode when Will's dad came off the scene and kind of promised Will that he was going to take him back home and they were going to spend some time with him. Will is 16, 17, maybe 16 years old at this time. And this particular episode, and his father came in town and told Will he was going to take him. Then all of a sudden he decided that he wasn't going to take him with him on the trip. And he was going to leave in the middle of the night. And Uncle Phil made him stay and tell Will himself that he was leaving. Right. And that episode actually kind of helped me when I was working with Father Forever. That was an episode that really kind of solidified one of the things that we were doing. And then one of the things that Will stood up in as a 15, 16-year-old kid now is watching his father walk out again I don't know how many times. Right. And he made a statement, I don't need him. He wasn't there for my first basketball game. He wasn't there for my first girlfriend. He wasn't there for my college. I don't need him. And he's ranting and raving. And all of a sudden he embraced Uncle Phil and said, "Why don't he love me, man? Why did that?" So this guy is, again, a 15-year-old guy is struggling with his father abandoning him once again.
Yeah.
And those, some of the things that in my, and there's a lot of people, there's a lot of hurting people out there because their father decided not to be there. And we may need to have a whole episode where we're going to have some men who grew up without their fathers to come in, and we're going to do that and talk about the pain and the pain, and not just the abuse, but the abandonment. The abandonment issue when people feel like their dad walked out on them and just left them. And people, adults, as a social worker, I dealt with that for 20-some years. And now with Fathers Forever, we're still dealing with every single day. We're dealing with these men who struggle with the absence of fathers and the abandonment that they're feeling. The Bible calls it forsaken. It's the same word. Forsaken or abandonment. It's the same thing that Jesus used on the cross when he said, God, why have you forsaken me? That is the same word. We know God didn't forsake Jesus. So those abandonment issues are real in our. And so that episode, another episode about the Cosby that really, really, Tammy, helped. In fact, we created a class in our curriculum. We talked about budget. There was a story where Theo had graduated from high school and he was going to go to college, but he was going to stay at home and he was going to. So Bill said, "Okay, you can do that, but you're going to pay rent." He said, "Oh yeah, we pay rent." So he gave him a couple $100 of rent. But the dad said, "No, not only you got to pay rent, but you got to pay your portion of the light bill. You got to pay your portion of the phone bill, of the water bill, of the food." And they sit down and look at his budget, and he had a couple $100 left over from his paycheck to pay his rent. Then he thought he had $200, and Bill said, "No, give me $200 for the light." And by the time it's all over, he only had like $30 or $40.
Right.
So we kind of incorporated that into one of our classes about budgeting, where your child support money is going. And we talked about the phone bill, the light bill, the gas bill, the water bill, and all those things, and how much is left over when the bills are due. So those kind of guys shaped my. Andy Griffin was another one.
Yep.
Where we watched. I love the stories that Andy would teach Opie at a young age about, stealing or whatever he was doing. He would sit down and tell him,
teaching them principles.
At an early age. And those TV dads kind of helped shape.
And he was a single father.
He was a single father, yes. Yeah. Family Matters was another one. When he stood up and I guess his son got in trouble with the police officer and he had to go and deal with that whole situation. So a lot of these dads, TV dads, kind of really
some positive role models.
Yeah.
And it's sad now because everything's replaced with reality shows, which have nothing to do with anything, because it tells you these reality shows mainly show people how to just live out of control. And have no morals or do whatever you want. It's okay. All that kind of stuff. So
I was just going to ask that question because of all the people that we have named, as far as like father figures that we saw, back in the day. Do you think that part of the issue that we're experiencing now is life imitating art, or art imitating what's happening in society?
That's a good question, and I believe it's a combination of both. I mean, you're getting some of the scripts that have been written is getting from real life experience that the writers are writing from real life experience.
Right.
They get it, they're coming up with the script based on what they see in society. And of course, they're going to add their spin to it, be it good or bad. But I think it's a lot of times they're writing from what
because
JLC.
if today there's a lot of single mom households, and you don't see a lot of. I've seen a few movies where there's a single dad, but for the most part, there's single moms raising their families. Yes. That's the theme that's being portrayed, which carries over into these reality shows and things of that nature. You know, it's an imbalance of the family structure today, of our society today.
Right. Kevin Hart did a movie, I forgot the name of it, that I watched, it being a single father where his wife died at childbirth.
Oh, yeah.
And they were telling him that he didn't have what it took
to raise
his child.
A little baby.
And was it a struggle? Yes. And you know, but he did. And we do a whole class about things that what our perception is, that, you know, we should talk about true or false, about fathers sometimes. No difference between a baby cry, a wet cry, or a cry of a baby who's hungry. And sometimes they're saying, Dad can't, it's not part enough to figure that out. It's okay for women to do it, but Dad is you know, but with statistics is not, don't support that.
But
I think the name of that movie was Fatherhood.
Yeah.
But we can, though.
We can, yes. I mean, as a single father, I struggled for a long time with, you know, doing my daughter's hair. Thank God I had a lot of siblings and or sisters that was, you know, women, as well as a lot of church members who happened to, you know, actually her mom was there as well. So they taught her a lot of female, you know, things that were going on with her as a child, as a young woman. That thank God I had them around to teach her that. But I think I did pretty well. It was a struggle. I had to learn how to cook and all that other stuff. But that is very important in society in which we live in. Again, we can talk about this forever.
Yeah. You don't get tired of the message that they're conveying to the audience.
Right.
You know, it's something that you can still learn from or pull some information from, as opposed to today.
Yeah, and Dan, you said something very important. I wish that we can go back, that the writers will start writing from instead of these reality shows, and I get that, but go back to the old school stuff, the Cosby's and the Fred Sam. You know, a lot of those shows had a lot of comedies in them. So even though we were struggling as a family, struggling as a nation, with all the shootings, the killings that was going on, and all the racism that was going on, they brought happiness to us. We laughed and you know, it was a real life, but it was mixed with comedy.
Yeah, and if you talk about pain, you always felt that when you saw the good times.
Yes.
James and
yes.
What was his wife?
I can't. Thelma, not Thelma.
No, Thelma.
Louise. No, not James and
Florida.
Florida. Yes. That you knew they were in a struggle. They were in a struggle. The family didn't have much. 2-bedroom apartment, and the boys slept out on the couch.
Yes.
No, but that was real life.
That was real life, and I don't know what that. I don't know where that was shot at. That episode of those.
I think they were.
I think it was Chicago.
Chicago, yeah. And you know, my wife and I, we watched those shows. Those 2 times we've been and watch. You know, we stood on the Netflix and we watched those shows.
One after the other.
Yeah. We've watching the one we just talked about with Florida and with JJ and we just watched one show after another show after another show about the rough times that they have, but they always pull through.
Yep.
You know, and he didn't walk out, even though it was an episode where his father walked out on him, and his father finally came back and as a grown man now, probably 50 years old, but he, you know, cried about his dad. He's like, where were you at, man? Where have you been 30 years of your life? It doesn't have a happy ending. It don't always happen that way. Great, y'all. Well, I know this. We can keep on talking about this, and I know it's time to wrap up. But I want to encourage our audience to really spend some quality time with your family and your father, and love your parents if they're still living. And let's just take care of one another.
And maybe they can share. Maybe our audience members can share some of their thoughts about their dad.
Yes.
On our
go to our comment page and write some comments about and send this this podcast to your friends. Maybe to help them, encourage them to spend time with their loved ones, especially during Father's Day in this week. Again, I just want to wish everybody a happy belated Father's Day, and until we meet again, I'll say so long.
Bye, everyone.
Here's 3 ways you can support our Dads at a Distance initiative. Give a copy to a family member, our friend. Donate monthly, a book monthly, 5 books monthly, how many books you want to do monthly donation. Reverse book signing, your church, your business. You can make a donation go to our website at www.afatherforever.com and go to our PayPal at Fathers Forever. Our Cash App is $Fathers Forever. Make your donation today. Please include in the note section, include DAAD. Again, include in the note section DAAD. I really had some fun today talking with Tammy and James, especially as we talked about the TV dads. I really took me way back to the days growing up watching these TV dads and how they apply to my life now and how they shape my life, and maybe some of you as well. So I really had a good time. Hope you guys enjoyed yourself. And again, at this month, as we end our discussion on Father's Day month, as we celebrate Father's Day, the whole month of June. So take care of yourself, take care of your family. Until we meet again, we'll say so long.
If you or someone you know would like to be a part of the show, please visit our website at www.afatherforever.com or call us at 919-779-9905. The Chat and Chew podcast streams Thursdays at 12 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. To schedule a reverse book signing or to find out more information about how you can become a part of the programs you've heard us mention today, please be sure to stop by our website as well.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fathers Forever University. My name is Glenn Warren, and I will be your instructor. Fathers Forever University is a remote learning experience where we take our 12-week class, and we meet here every Thursday night from 6 until 7, and we talk about fatherhood. We talk about domestic violence. We talk about where your child support money is going. We teach classes about fatherhood and how important it is to be in your child's life. So these 12 weeks is going to be very important for you guys to understand and the concept of fatherhood and what we're trying to teach you. Fathers Forever University is broken down into 12 weeks, and you can start at any time during those 12 weeks. The key to it is finishing those 12 weeks. Every lesson is in lecture format, where you listen to that lecture, and then on Thursday nights, we discuss that lecture. The Thursday night discussion is where your homework will be due. Part of your homework assignment every Thursday night is to, one, we'll ask you the question, what did you learn? And the second question, how am I going to apply what I learned? We also have specific assignments for each lesson in the notes below. This has been an introduction into Fathers Forever University. Now let's get started in lesson 1.